Hello, and welcome to the Widow's Nest, where new life begins. I'm Lisa Cleveland, your widowhood lifestyle coach, and I'm so glad you're back here to join me here in the Widow's Nest. Here is where we talk and walk our way through this journey called widowhood. This month is an exciting month. It's the month of February, and we have a lot of things that's happening in the month of February. For starters, it's my birthday month, and then we have President's Day, we have Black History Month. But the thing that we're going to talk about today is love. Why? Because in February we also have Valentine's Day, and that could be a day that makes you sad or mad, and hopefully through this journey, depending on where you're at in it, maybe it made you glad. And I hope it did, because love is so important. So our topic for today is, what's love got to do with it? As Tina Turner sang, love has a lot to do with it, okay? And even though we have hearts that can be broken, it's love that also mends those broken hearts. So we're going to talk about love today. So welcome again into the Widow's Nest, all of my widows and widowers here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and around the world. If you're watching this on another channel, I so appreciate you watching today and joining me here again. We have so much that we're trying to do here in the Widow's Nest as we go into 2023. There's so many ideals and things that I want to do to bring us together, because it's difficult going through widowhood when you don't feel that there's no one who gets you, no one who understands that you're in the process of regathering yourself and putting yourself back together and starting a whole nother season, going from we to me. And it's not an easy challenge to take on, but it's something that we have to do. And there's so many great things that can come out of this. So make sure you visit thewidowsnest.com and also like my page on Facebook, The Widow's Nest, so that you can see other ways that we can come together and share socially and be there as a support system and have a support group for one another, so that we don't always feel like we have to do this by ourselves. So as we go into our topic today, what's love got to do with it? I just want to go over what is love. You know, so many times we talk about love and we think love is just this word that we throw out so casually. But those of us who have experienced true love and who have lost that true love, it's not as easy for us to bypass or throw that word out so easily, right? So I want to talk about what love means to me. When I first was introduced to love, it was through, of course, your parents taking you to church, to Bible study, and we learned that God is love. And one of the little songs that we used to sing was, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone who loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. Beloved, let us love one another." 1 John 4:7-8. So I learned early on about God and the love of God. And I experienced love through my parents, my mother and my father, how they took care of us, how they were there for us, how they supplied our needs. And then you have your siblings who look out for you. You got your big brother and your big sister, and you know, maybe you were the big brother and the big sister or big brother to your younger siblings, and you learned the love of family and of siblings. And then you may have met that little boy in school that took a liking to you, and you wrote the little "do you like me, yes or no," or you know, you had that little childlike love and that little kitty love. And then you grow up and you become a teenager or a young lady, and then you fall in love, and then maybe it grows and it blossoms, and you got engaged, and then you got married, and you experienced that marital love that brought your own family, and you experienced the love of motherhood, and then, you know, they grow up and they go on, and you have grandchildren, and you experience the love of grandchildren and being a grandmom and a pop. But then you start experiencing that loss, because the older we get, the more life becomes real to us, and we see how precious time is, and we get those emotional attachments, and we want things to stay the same, don't we? Even though we know when we got married and we exchanged those vows and we said to ourselves, till death do us part, we never really took in consideration that death may do us part one day, and what time that would take place in our lives. So if you're watching this show, you're probably a widow or widower like me, or maybe you lost your parents. I know I lost my father first, and then I lost my mother, and then 2 years after that I lost my husband, and it was a lot of loss, and I started wondering, what is this love? Where is the love? How am I losing all of these people that were so valuable to me and so important to my life? But I started reflecting back on what love is, and how love reciprocates, and how do we gain love. And we learned, like I said, that God is love. And then there was another passage of scripture that comes to mind that says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so I realized that there's a principle in that. The principle is learning to love yourself. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because whether you went through this holiday season of Valentine's Day, and maybe you didn't get the big box of chocolate this time, or the dozen of roses, the big bouquet, or you didn't get the big card or the little love you notes and things of that nature, but you still have love. And I want you to know that today you still have love, because love is within us. Love is all around us. Love encompasses all things. We do a lot of things for love. We don't do some things because of love. So love plays a big part in our lives. It has a lot to do with how we relate to the circumstances and the situations that come our way, because it's only through love that we are even impacted or affected by that, because there's something on the inside of us that tells us that there's something better, something good. And if we've experienced that love at some point of our life, we're gonna feel that loss of it. We're gonna miss it because we had it. And that's what makes love so good. And that's what makes us going through this season in our life so challenging. But I want you to embrace love again. And I want you to start with yourself. I know we look outwardly all the time for love, but until we can look inwardly for love, we'll always feel like something is missing, that we're lacking something. So I want you to take some time this year and start today, to love yourself. How are you loving yourself? Because you cannot properly love anyone else until you learn how to love yourself. And I know we say to ourselves all the time, oh, I love myself. Oh, I know how to love myself. But if we really take a good look at how we're taking care of ourselves and the things that we go through, we have to ask ourselves, do we really know how to love ourselves? Are we really giving ourselves the love that we deserve and that we need? Because see, loving yourself will put you in a better mental state, put you in a better physical state, and put you in a better spiritual state. And it won't catch us off guard when things around us go wrong and go bad, because they will. These things are going to happen. We cannot get around it. It didn't just happen to us. It happened to millions and thousands of people. When we look around the world today and we see the earthquakes and the tornadoes, and we see the wars, and we see the sickness and the diseases, we just are still coming through a pandemic right now. It's hard to imagine the pain and the hurt that everyone must be feeling all around the world. And sometimes we get so sad, and it can be so depressing, and we can get off into a little corner of darkness, and we just don't want to come out. We're like, I can't do this no more. I can't take this anymore. But I want you to know that there is hope and there is light, and it's in you. And it has to start with you loving you, because tomorrow is not promised to any of us. So we have to design a life and create a life worth living for. So I want you to take some time out and ask yourself, what do I need? What do I value? What do I like? What brings me joy? Are you creating an atmosphere around you? You might not control everything that happens in the world, but in your little space, in your home, in your mind, in your life, are you creating a life worth living? Are you finding that space, that happy place that you can go to that brings you hope and joy. I don't know what it is that you would do, how your best life looks. I don't know if you have ever taken the time out to do a vision board and say, if I could create my best life, how would that look? Where am I at? What colors are around me? What kind of atmosphere? Am I sitting by a lake? Am I at a beach? Am I sitting on a mountaintop? Begin to learn how to relate to yourself. Build a relationship with yourself so that you can show up in your own life. You don't want to be a successful failure where you successfully done everything everybody else wanted you to do, but you failed to do the things that were most important to you. One of the things I realized through the death of my husband was that I had a big full life with him, and I enjoyed every moment of the marriage. I enjoyed the family life. I enjoyed the ministry that we built together. We pastored a church together for 15 years. We helped so many people. We did a lot of community events. We visited the sick and shut in. We did the communion. We did all sorts of things to let other people feel life and feel empowered, and so that they could go on and live their best lives. Our life was a life of servanthood, and we served well. And that was one of the reasons why it was so hard for me to accept God's decision to take my husband home early, because I felt that he was so needed and so useful in the things that he did in this world today. So when I think about love and how I was challenged in that area, it shut me down. It really shut me down, and it took a lot for me to find me again and to find myself again. But when I began to go through the things as I unpacked them, I moved from Charlotte to from New Jersey to North Carolina, and I began to unpack, and I found books and songs and plays and ideals that I had that I wanted to do that I was always too busy to do because me and my husband were too busy building ministries and giving out. And so many of the dreams and the visions that I had, I put on the back burner in order to be the wife, the mother, the pastor, the employee, the leader that I was called to be during those seasons. But life has a lot of seasons, and there's reasons behind every season. And there's a reason behind the season that you're in right now. Even in this walk and this journey through widowhood, there is something that you can learn and something that you're going to take from that past and all those experiences you had in that marriage and that motherhood and all those things. Because my children grew up and got married, and I have grandchildren now, and my husband is deceased and he's going on to be with the Lord. And now, who am I now? What can I do now? So when I began to look at those things, and I realized, I said, you know what? I can actually do some of these things that I put on the back burner for a while. And I began to revamp some of the plays and start singing again, and just started doing some things to love on myself. And that's what I encourage you to do today as well. What are some things that you may not have had time to do before, that it wasn't the season for you to sow into those gifts and those talents and abilities that you had, but now you have that time to do that. So don't look at this season as the end. This is a new beginning. It could be a new beginning for you, but it starts with loving yourself. What's love got to do with it? It has a lot to do with it, because when you begin to love yourself, you bring light and love and opportunities to you that you may not have experienced had not this happened in your life. You have a new sense of value for life because you know how fragile it is. So when you talk and you share with people, you have a passion that other people may not have because they haven't experienced the things that you have experienced. So we don't want to take this life for granted, for where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. And if we don't know the purpose for this life, we will abuse this life. And that's not what we want to do. We want to die empty. I heard it once said that the graveyard is the richest place on earth because so many people left here with untapped potential. They had gifts, talents, and abilities that never came into fruition, that never came to light because they were either too busy or they didn't think that they could do it. They didn't have the faith. They didn't invest in the education and the things that they needed to expound upon that and to build that, to produce the thoughts that was in their minds. We have so many visions that come to us, and I want to tell you, it's all possible. They say if you believe it, you can achieve it, and that if you could dream it. I mean, all of these little cliches and things and statements that we make, they actually have a lot of principles of value to them if we would only apply it to ourselves. So I want you in this new season of widowhood to describe and to take the time, be selfish a little bit, not in a bad way, but in a good way. Because see, when you become your best self, you're going to be better to help other people. And that's what we're all here to do, to be a blessing to others. It's not just about what about me, what about me, what about me. When we spend so much time thinking about what we don't have, we miss the opportunities to see what we do have, because there's always someone else less fortunate than us. And when we look around the world and we see all the loss, we are not the only widows or widowers that are out here struggling, going through this same pain of trying to get ourselves back in the game again. And especially depending on what age you are at this point, if you're like me in your mid to late 50s, you say, how do I stay relevant in today's society? How do I reinvent myself? Who's going to want me? Do I need to go back to school? That's a good question. Do you need to go back to school? There are so many things available today, free courses, free classes that you can go to that will give you another skill set, or that open up something inside you that has been laying dormant for a while. So look into it. Maybe you enjoy photography. Maybe you're really good at taking pictures. And maybe you're good at drawing. Maybe you always wanted to paint. Maybe you want to take a painting class. Maybe you always wanted to dance. Maybe you want to take a salsa class or a samba class. Who knows? There's so many things that are available to us today. One of the struggles I had with that, though, was finding someone to go with me. I was so used to having a partner, I didn't feel comfortable going to these places by myself. It made me feel even more alone. But what I found out through a bunch of no's, I would say, hey, I want to go horseback riding. Hey, I want to take this class. Hey, I want to do this. I want to take a writer's class. And none of my friends were interested or had the time to do that. They were in a different season of their life. But I learned to go by myself, because even though I went by myself once, I wasn't by myself after that. Because once you get there, you find other people who have the same interests that you have, because that's why they're there, right? So you go there and you meet people, and then they become your friends, and they start asking you, hey, you're going to be back next week? Hey, you're going to be back next week? Maybe you're going to do a walking class. You need to do something physical with yourself. And how is your diet? How is your exercise? Are you loving on yourself physically? Are you making sure that your health is where it needs to be? That's a part of loving yourself. One of the things I had to do when my husband passed was go get a physical. I was diagnosed with diabetes, and the depression and the grief. I was sitting and I was so down, and I gained all this weight, and then my sugar went out the way. I felt tired all the time. I was just going through physically. But when the pandemic happened, I didn't have any choice because there was nowhere to go. Everything was closed, and I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know that saying, right? So I decided to start walking, and it was a challenge at first. Walking around that building, I was like, whoa. But I kept going, and every day I would do more and more laps. Before you know it, I was doing 10,000 steps in the morning, drinking 5 bottles of water, and I went from 192 to 150. And what did that do for me? Just by me taking those steps, just to go towards, just walking, not running, jogging, doing a whole bunch of things, taking a whole bunch of exercise class, just walking. It gave me new energy, new light, new insight. I would listen to positive things. What are you putting in your mind? I would listen to motivational things while I walked, or listen to songs that I really enjoyed that made me feel happy. Nothing that made me feel lost or alone or sad. I didn't listen to a bunch of love songs that made me miss my husband, made me cry all the time. I listened to pop hits and I had some walking music, but I also listened to Easy 101 stuff and, just things that were calm, that kept my spirit calm. And before I knew it, I was feeling good about myself. I was sharing my journey about my weight loss, and I went shopping. I felt good physically. I started doing things for myself physically, and that was a step in the right direction. Like I shared with you guys before, I was also suffering spiritually because as a pastor and as a leader, everyone assumed because I was a pastor and a leader that I just was okay with God deciding to take my husband home, which I was not okay with, right? So even though I never denounced my faith and I still love God and I would read my Bible, I became very quiet because I didn't want to sound bitter and angry because I knew God was in control. And even though I didn't agree with his decision, I knew my husband was in a better place. And I knew my husband would not want me feeling this way because we have preached and teach so much about life and death. And I knew he knew I knew better. So I was trying to work myself through the emotions of this. It's one thing to talk about, is another thing to walk it out. Okay, it's easy to sit there and tell other people when they're going through, but when it happens to you, it's a whole nother story. So I'm with you. I get you. I know what you mean now. I thought I knew then, but I definitely know now. But I started listening again and going back into services, and I found this church that I really enjoyed, and I began allowing myself to feel the presence of God again. And the next thing you know, God was revealing to me how he was there the whole time, how he was loving me even through that hardest season of my life, and how I started seeing all the miracles that took place. And one day I'll be able to share with you guys all the things that happened, and it couldn't be nothing but God during that time that put me in a better position than I am today. So loving yourself is becoming whole again. Takes the mental, takes the spiritual, takes the physical, and it takes the financial. So if you're not able to get the things that you need, what gifts, talents, and abilities do you have that maybe can bring you some cash, can generate? You might be sitting on a gold mine and not even know it. You might have the cure for something and don't even know it. And you might have the gift to speak and share. Maybe you could turn your pain into passion, as I am doing, and share with other people who may be experiencing what you're going through today. So these are all ways that we give out love, and that love comes back to us. I feel loved when I share and I talk to people, and they come and they tell me how it's helping and it's healing them, and that they gain strength and insight and wisdom through something I may have said or shared. So I thank God for this season in my life. And even though I have my moments where I feel that loss and I feel that abandonment as far as the physical presence of my husband, sometimes I sit back and I just smile to myself because I know he's proud of me. I know he's proud of what I decided to do with my life. Because one of the things he said to me is that you are so full of life and you have so much love to give. So don't just sit back there and make sure if you decide to get married again. And he said, I think you should. He said, because you are a good wife and you're a good woman. He said, but make sure they're worthy of you. So what are you doing to help yourself to move forward? Are you sitting back like I did for so long and just waddling and just waiting for something to happen? I encourage you today to give yourself a big hug and tell yourself that you are loved. You are loved and you are necessary. And there's a purpose for you still being here. And you need to find out what that purpose is. And you need to begin to enjoy your life. This is the month of love. Love yourself so that you can love others. So you can love your children. You can love your grandchildren. And they can see the beauty of life and how it recycles, and that there are cycles in life. There's all different stages, from the mothers from God to the parents to the all that. Everything that we just discussed and went through. There's different seasons and different channels. And even though you're in this channel right now, this too shall pass. And you can do great things, but it begins with you. So what's love got to do with it? Love has everything to do with it. If you start seeing love in its right perspective, and you start realizing the power of love. The only reason why we feel so much pain is because we felt so much love. But it's that same love that's going to get you through this next season in your life. This journey through widowhood doesn't have to be dark and gloomy. It can be bright and full of light, and you can find out so many wonderful things about yourself. You can open up a new door to things that you never thought that you would. We don't even know sometimes all the things that we like and enjoy because we haven't given ourselves a chance. We've been too busy surviving and not thriving. It's time to thrive. It's time to live, because we don't know when we're going to leave here. What legacy are you going to leave? What are your children going to say about you? Are they going to say that you were a woman or a man of strength and honor, and that you fought through and you kept doing new and great things, and they were amazed by how resilient you were and how strong you were, how patient, how kind, even in the worst times, how pleasant, and how you showed character and how you showed strength and how you kept yourself together? Let that be your testimony, because you don't know what's coming down the line for them. And they need to be able to have something to reflect on, that they can say, I know I can make it because my mother made it, my grandmother made it, my father made it, my grandfather made it. And I want to be like them. I don't want this life to beat me. I want to beat life. I want to do the things that I need to do. Love yourself so that you can love others. Make this month the best month of your life and carry it all the way through 2023. All right? So thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to talking with you at our next segment. We are going to be doing so many wonderful things. We're doing so many great things here in Charlotte, North Carolina, meeting with the different widows and widowers and just having that communication. Sometimes just talking and being amongst people who are on the same journey can help and strengthen you to move forward as well. So join us here. Visit me on Facebook, like my page to see any upcoming events we might be doing, any gatherings we may be having, so that you too can be a part of this great season of our lives and you can get to the next place that you're supposed to be with joy and happiness. Don't forget, but don't let it stop you from moving forward. I love you. God bless you, and I'll see you again soon.